I'd like to share a story with you that happened last night with my mother, who happens to be deaf. When she told me about it, I was completely shocked about her experience, about being pulled over. So last night she was driving down the road just like she has done several times on her way home. 24. She wasn't speeding or anything, and my grandma, who's 92, was sitting in the car with her. She was driving and she noticed a motorcycle police officer up ahead, and so she just kept driving like she usually does. And then all of a sudden she noticed that the motorcycle cop pulled out behind her and turned the lights on. So she looked and she wasn't going very fast or anything, so she pulled over, and the officer pulled over. She moved over to the side and he moved behind her, so she moved back out. And she noticed that he was trying to pull her over. So she pulled over. The officer walked up to the window and she rolled the window down, and he started talking to her. And she gestured that she was deaf and couldn't hear, so he needed a sign. He kept talking. So she looked at the officer, and he kept talking, and he was mouthing, "Can you read my lips?" She just gestured that it was hard and she preferred to sign or have an interpreter or write back and forth. But he still would not make an effort to communicate with her. He just kept talking. So she was struggling, and it wasn't clear why he pulled her over, if she was speeding. It was very hard for her to understand, but the officer refused to write anything down or even try to communicate with her. So he gave her a ticket. When she was looking at it, the print on it was very little. It was very fine print, and it was hard for my mom to read. So she said she couldn't read it, and he wanted her to sign it. So she signed it. Later, when she got home, she said she would sign it later if she was guilty or not guilty. And he said, "No, sign it now." So we didn't have any radar. He didn't have any proof that she was speeding, and she couldn't read the ticket, so she didn't know. So the officer gestured for her to sign it. She said, "I would like an interpreter." And they struggled back and forth trying to communicate with each other. And she asked for an interpreter, and the officer told her no. And he said something about getting her a Spanish interpreter, and she said, "No, I need an ASL interpreter." And he finally just said, "We can fight it out in court if you're not going to sign the paper." And he tried to get her to sign it again, and he told her he would take her to jail if she didn't sign it. She said, "Fine. If I go to jail, who's going to drive my husband and my mother home?" So they went back and forth, and she finally just thought, "Okay, I'm just going to sign it." And at the bottom where she was supposed to sign, it said, "Do you understand?" She went home. She was really bothered by that, so she contacted a friend who was a hearing officer, and talked to him about it. And he encouraged her to go in and file a complaint. So she went in and filed a complaint. And noted that the law requires that they provide an interpreter. So they looked at the Americans with Disabilities Act and tried to find where it said that it must be provided. And they noted that the officer didn't make an effort to try to communicate with her, so it was very hard for her to understand. And if that was really what happened, she'd have a case. Plus, when my mom was looking at the ticket, it was really hard for her to see and hard to read. And when she got home and read it later, it found out that she was being charged $300 for driving 40 miles an hour. And the reason they charged her that much is because they said it was a construction area. But there was no construction workers or equipment around. So the officer lied when he filled out the ticket. So we'll see what happens, but I just wanted to let you know about that story so that you would be aware for the future. I was interested to find that there's an officer forum where they've asked the question about providing interpreters and if deaf people can even drive. Deaf people can drive. You can pull them over and get a valid driver's license. So you guys can go into the forum and add your opinions and your views.